We know we're in the middle of something a big thing going on in the United States, the Civil War.
So from 1863.
In the middle of the Civil War. And 1863, of course, is the year of the Emancipation Proclamation. So January 1st, 1863, Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation. He also says black folks can fight in the war. So now black folks can go down south and fight the people who used to enslave their parents. So of course the war changed, because prior to 1863 the South was winning. But after black people was allowed to go fight the people who raped their mamas and broke up their families and sold children away from parents and parents away from children and husband away from wives and all of that, once that was allowed, of course, the war shifted. So never let it be said that folks went out and fought to free black people, because that's what's generally said. When black people talk about how this country committed slavery against our ancestors, sometimes you will have a person who will say, in this country, white folks went and fought for your freedom, and they're talking about the Civil War. Nobody fought for our freedom more than us, which is why my tour is called We Are Our Own Heroes. So in 1863, after Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, Detroit is still in this divided situation. You know, we already know that this was supposed to be part of the Northwest Territory, so it was supposed to be free. So you had some people here who believed in freedom. But we also know that Detroit had slavery, so you had people who believed in slavery and that black people were inferior. The chief institution, the chief business, the oldest Michigan business that still exists right now, it was known at that time as the Michigan Intelligentsia and Democratic Free Press. You know it now as the Detroit Free Press. There was no such thing as Detroit News yet. The Detroit Free Press was a Democratic newspaper. If you know anything about the Democrats in the 1830s through the 1870s, and actually through the 1960s really, Democrats were, that's the racist, that's the racist party. You know, so blacks weren't Democrats in the 1860s. So, the Democratic newspaper, the Free Press, had been for decades been attacking black people.
The Detroit Free Press.
That's right. Had been, and then they didn't write editorials calling black people the N-word. They didn't write editorials saying we was nigger. That was in the regular news. So a nigger was captured on Woodward robbing a store. A nigger was killed yesterday. That was the news. That wasn't the editorial. That wasn't the opinion section. That was the news. That's how racist they were. And during the Civil War, of course, they were Democratic, and the South was mainly, the Confederates were mainly Democrats. So the Democratic newspaper was anti-Lincoln, anti-black, and pro-South. So they had been writing articles for years. They had been writing articles for years saying that black people are coming to Detroit because of Lincoln issuing this Emancipation Proclamation. They're coming to Detroit, they're gonna take your jobs, white people. They're gonna move in your neighborhoods, and they're gonna mess with your women. One of the largest influx and influential groups, white groups, in Detroit were the Irish. And they settled mainly in what we now know as Corktown. That was their part of Detroit. And they were political leaders in Detroit. They were police officers. There wasn't no such thing as police though yet in 1863. At least not like it is today. But that's who they were. So in 1863, the Free Press had been writing report after report trying to get white folks to be upset at Lincoln, number one, and black folks in Detroit, number two. And a black man was arrested for molesting a 9-year-old white girl in 1863, in March of 1863. Say that again. March of 1863, a black man, William Faulkner, not the writer William Faulkner, but a person with the same name, a black man with the same name, was arrested for molesting a 9-year-old white girl. So, after all of this writing that the Free Press has been doing, and they ramped it up after the Emancipation Proclamation, this occurs. And they say, see what we told you? We told you what these black folks was gonna do. We told you what, they didn't say black folks, but we told you what they was gonna do, and what are you gonna do about it? Y'all have to, this will continue to happen unless you do something about it. So a crowd gathered out here. He was in court. He was brought out of court. William Faulkner was brought out of the court, which was at the old City Hall, and was on his way to be taken to the Wayne County Jail, which we're gonna go to. The old Wayne, where it was, the old Wayne County Jail. They were going to take him there, and the crowd was out here, and the crowd shot at William Faulkner. They were going to kill him and lynch him right here in Campus Martius. But the police officer almost got shot. The sheriff actually, it wasn't the police department really fully working yet, but the police officer was almost shot, and they went back into the building. They went back into the building, and so they weren't able to get William Faulkner. So this crowd goes out into the community and kills random black people. Burned 30 buildings down, including white-owned buildings who hired African Americans, or hired black people to work. Yes.
What happened to the jury, the judge and jury? I mean, what happened to innocent until proven guilty or not guilty?
They were going to lynch him. they had already
labeled him,
and along with the Detroit Free Press,
stamped him
had
guilty.
already said this man should die, and you got to send a message to black folks.
Hate black people anyway.
And so they went and killed
Wow.
random black people. This is the first race riot in Detroit. You need to know that. 1863. In
Wow.
March of 1863, the first race riot of Detroit occurred.